Hi, I'm Anya. So if you don't know me, Anya, and I am at Yoga Embodied and Yoga Embodied Online. So I'm a yoga teacher and an Ayurvedic practitioner, and over the years I've done quite a lot of different therapies that I still practice. But some of the things that I'm very interested in at the moment is about women's health and our cycle, and also what happens through our cycle, so from pregnancy into perimenopause and menopause. And I wanted to do this live today, this little session, because I got inquiries about our doshas in not just during our monthly cycle, but also what happens when we are pregnant. And on my not on my face, well, on Facebook and on Instagram, I shared some little videos of my own practice. So I've been doing some handstand practice, and I shared one a few weeks ago where I felt really disconnected from my body. Not disconnected, but I didn't feel very stable or grounded. And this was just before my period. It was just about to start, or could start any minute. And in that moment, we are moving into the Vata dosha. Vata dosha increases at that time in our bodies, regardless of what your prakruti or Vikruti is. So naturally, apana vayu is the one energy that helps to release our menstrual fluid. So it's that downward moving energy, downward and outward. So that increases during our menstruation and just before we start to feel that as well. So I can feel in my physical practice that changes. So when you have your period, it is the Vata time. So for me, it feels more comfortable not to do too much practice. I still practice. I wouldn't do a handstand practice or core practice because it just doesn't feel right in my body. And as Vata dosha increases anyway, we want something that's really soothing and grounding and stabilizing, so we can kind of balance Vata dosha. So after our bleed, we then start to come into the follicular phase, and this is where our endometrium starts to build up again. Anything that's building, anything that's accumulating is related to Kapha dosha. Kapha dosha is stability, it's grounded, it's solid, it's the earth element and the water element. So it's building qualities. So this is a wonderful time to build up muscles, or we have more strength, we have more power. So when we then have come to ovulation, this is like the combination of Kapha dosha, and then we have that spark of energy, and we have that Pitta spark, because Pitta is about all these hormones and change and transformation. So what I really want to talk about, because I'm going to talk a lot more about menstruation. I have an online course coming out very shortly, but what I wanted to share now is we have this phase of Kapha dosha increasing, the endometrial lining increases, and our cervical mucus is more sticky to allow for potential pregnancy. So that means if we do become pregnant at ovulation, then we have that beautiful Kapha dosha increased already to support the growth and the building of not just a new baby, it might be several babies, but also a placenta. So all of that growth is really supported by Kapha dosha, because that is building. And during pregnancy, we have the amniotic fluid, so that's that watery element. We are growing, the breasts are growing, the uterus is growing, and so there's a lot of growth. Our blood volume is also increasing during pregnancy, so all that growth can be related to Kapha dosha. So when we sometimes look at a pregnant woman, obviously depending on the stage she's in pregnancy, we sometimes look at her and she has this beautiful glow. She's just glowing. She looks abundant. She's curvaceous. Her, everything is slightly swollen in a beautiful way. And that's Kapha dosha. It's a manifestation of Kapha dosha. And that's a positive in pregnancy. So in pregnancy, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, like at any other time in our lives, if we have too much, we get problems. So excess Kapha dosha in pregnancy could be leading to diabetes, so pregnancy diabetes. And it could also lead to fluid retention, so swollen ankles and feet, for example, could be excess Kapha dosha. It could potentially also be that our digestive system slows down a bit, and that could also be Kapha dosha relating to the acne, the digestive fire, and becomes mandacne. So they're positive and negative, but certainly for fertility, to become pregnant, Kapha dosha, healthy Kapha dosha, is good to increase in the sense of ojas, so the ojas, the immunity and vitality. But everything is connected, and nothing is in isolation. So pregnancy is obviously a massive change in a woman's body, and change is always related to Vata dosha. Vata dosha is the element of air and space, and Vata is change. So in pregnancy, it's big change, and we are creating more space because we're creating space for a new human being, or potentially several human beings. So that can increase as well. The site of Vata is in the pelvis, and this is where everything started. It's at the pelvis. So again, we might see changes in Vata dosha as during pregnancy. This can also be related to, Vata dosha is usually the first dosha that changes, and as soon as that changes, it's like if we look at the line of any kind of imbalance, the origin is usually Vata dosha. So in pregnancy, and especially if you're trying to become pregnant, you want to really pacify any excess Vata dosha. So this is not to say if your prakruti is predominantly Vata, that's normal for you, but if it increases, you need to pacify, and that's reducing anything that's erratic. And this is actually also interesting when we think about the traditional recommendations from Ayurveda for pregnancy, is that everything should be calm, soothing. We shouldn't be angry or be around angry people. We shouldn't be shouting or being around people that are shouting or gossip. All of these things that are increasing Vata. Traveling is another one that's increasing Vata. So for us modern beings, being on the computer, being on Facebook all the time, watching violent movies would increase Vata dosha. So we would want to reduce that if we are trying to become pregnant, but also if we are pregnant. And Vata dosha is always important to keep in check. After Vata dosha, just like I said on our menstrual cycle, Vata apana vayu, which is part of the movements of prana and vayu, or Vata in the body, is that downward moving energy that's responsible for menstruation. This is also responsible for childbirth. So Vata dosha is always a good one to keep in check. So that is, any dryness, skin irritation is usually Vata dosha that has increased. If it goes the wrong way, it kind of moves up, and then again we can have the indigestion, we can have digestive issues, even nausea, could be potentially because Vata dosha is moving in the wrong direction. So that's Vata dosha. So during pregnancy, we almost, depending on what's going on in your body, but for most of us, we look at a Vata pacifying regime, because Vata pacifying regime or routine is nourishing and nurturing. And that's what we want during pregnancy. We are building up another person or several people, so we want those qualities. So that's Kapha and Vata. And what about Pitta? Pitta is very often related to hormones, and this is a time where hormones are going crazy, and the increase of hormones. So Pitta is also involved, and Pitta is related to heat. So now any heartburn, the temperature increases. The woman's temperature during her pregnancy is higher than usual. So at that time as well, this can be from Vata, because obviously there is a disruption to Vata, the site of Vata in the pelvis. But this is related to Pitta as well, because the heat rash, just feeling hotter than usual, which is normal during pregnancy, the increase of hormones, the increase of Rakta Dhatu, or the blood tissue. There's a higher blood volume when you're pregnant. So what do? We listen really carefully to our bodies and how it changes through our life, through our menstrual cycle, through our pregnancy. I can talk about postpartum, but I think that's going to be a different talk. So listen to what your changes are, how you can pacify anything that's excess. And for most of us, a Vata pacifying routine is useful, because if Vata is out, it will affect the other two doshas. And so that was a little bit of insight into the doshas in pregnancy in a woman's life. And as I said, if you're curious about the menstrual cycle and how that is thought about in Ayurveda, then do keep your eyes open, because I will soon open up for my course, which is about the menstrual cycle and Ayurveda, so we can learn to work with our cycle rather than against it, and use all the positives of the doshas at that time as well. So so stay in touch. If you have specific questions, you can send me a message or an email. Email is usually better, info@yogaembodied.com, or write in the comment box. If you write in the comments, please tag me, because sometimes it's difficult to get the updates. So thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye.